The weather forecast last night said it was going to be 33 degrees overnight low, and here in the barn it was 39 degrees. So I don't actually know what our real low was here, but it looks like maybe the barn stayed up to 6 degrees warmer than the outside. That by itself is not going to be enough for the glue up that I'm doing. So this glue here has now been drying for 48 hours or so. It's still pretty squishy. I don't know if it's going to solidify anymore. So now I'm going to move on to doing some other tests on it. One of the big questions is how sandable is it? So I just arbitrarily picked some 150 grit here, and I'm going to give it a little bit of a sanding and see if I can smooth this out some. So this is actually sanding up pretty nice. I might even use a coarser grit here. So I think I'm going to grab, say, maybe an 80 and see what happens if I try to smooth this out even more. This seems to be cleaning up real nice. So I'm going to say that when it comes to sandability, this wood filler, I think this was the 407, the light density with the wood glue, seem to be a good combination. This really thick bits of glue, on the other hand, maybe, I don't know if it's ever going to harden up or not. I don't know how hard I'd want it to be, but the fact that it's squishy seems a little bit questionable. I think it's going to be fine for what I'm doing now, and maybe over time it will actually harden up more. It's an awful lot of thickness for it to try to dry out. As part of the manufacturing process, there's some sort of chemical that is on the outside surface that can interfere with the ability of the glue to bond to it. So I could either use a lot of isopropyl alcohol, which is in short supply these days, to try to remove it, or another option is to just sand the outer layer down. So I'm going to do sanding. I don't want to get all that sand in my lungs, so the important thing is to use, since I'm doing pink foam, I need to use the pink respirator. In general, I would prefer to use power tools for sanding just because it's a huge time saver. But right now the only power sanders I have on hand is this orbital sander and this angle grinder, and both of these would just chew through this foam so fast it wasn't practical to use them. Maybe if I had a light touch and a handheld belt sander, I could have used that. One thing I would definitely do differently next time is to do all of this sanding before I glued everything together. Having to deal with all the angles and sitting down and trying to get in positions definitely did not make it easier. And I basically have to sand the entire surface on both sides of these panels. So I might as well do that before I even assemble it together. So I didn't do that, so it made my life a little bit more difficult, but the result came out fine. The next step is to use this scary device again to poke a bunch of small holes all over the surface. That's going to help when we come and glue the canvas on over top. The glue is going to be biting into those little holes and the canvas will be on top, and that's going to keep the canvas from being able to shift around like this. And that's really important because that's what gives this structure a lot of strength, is the canvas adhering to the surface prevents the surface from being able to flex a lot. It gives a lot of strength. As a result, the failure mode when this comes off is that it kind of slides like this and tears off that way. So having those little teeth biting into it is really going to help lock it into place. So in a previous video, I said that I didn't think anybody had actually tested to see whether or not putting all these perforations made the laminate stronger. But I did additional research, and it turns out people have actually done the test. They've done it with and without, and then done load tests, and they found that these holes really do actually make a difference. So definitely doing them. That's all the time I have to work on this structure for today, but it's in a good state now. Next time I might be able to start laying up some of the canvas on top. There's still more structural work that I need to do before I can do all of the canvas layup, but I can sort of go back and forth, and getting the stuff on the top would be kind of a nice place to start. A little bunny over there. Bunny into moving there. There it goes.